Welcome to Chasing a Murderer. Today we are on part 57 of Life Beyond the Grave, which is attached to the Vallow case, the Doomsday Mom. You want to start from part 1 if you can, and if you're not familiar with the story, you definitely need to be familiar before you go forward. One quick tidbit is she was a mother where 2 of her kids went missing in Rexburg, Idaho. She believed that they were possessed by demons. And we're going through a timeline that describes what their lives were like before we ever got to 2019. We are learning this. I spent a lot of time researching this case, trying to figure out where all of this started. We learned in 2015 that there is a concern with certain groups attached to the LDS Church. This isn't something new. This has gone on throughout the years as long as LDS has existed. In fact, state presidents are directed to attend meetings and actually talk about the prepper groups or groups like them who they believe have gone off into the wrong or own direction. In the 1990s, this was actually popular. They were having to keep an eye on people who were passing around Bo Grits tapes. Most of these people were people who were collecting over a year's worth of gatherings. While the church does support storage, they usually encourage a year. This is in case you run across blizzards or something like that. In the 1990s, they were focused on people who were taking their children out of school and homeschooling them at a time when homeschooling wasn't cool. And then you had the main group that they were really focused on that a lot of people, non-Mormons, are familiar with, and that is the polygamous groups. Again, the church was big on storage and preparing, and you had people who were in survival groups. These were people that wanted to keep in touch with their primitive side. They go hunting, start fires, they enjoy gardening. But then you have these other ones, the ones you call preppers. And these are the people who are buying storage, so much storage that they had to buy extra sheds or buildings or take one of their spare rooms in their house. And specifically, the ones that they are really concerned about are the ones preparing for the end of the world. The 2000s was the rise of the new visionaries, people like Julie Rowe, John Podest, Christopher Parrott, Chad Daybell, Sarah Pennant, I think that's how you pronounce her last name. And it was the rise of the translated beings. It was a digital age, and one of the most popular websites, Vallow, another voice of warning, had 10K members, at least around this time frame. Before another voice of warning, there was a book called A Voice of Warning. And believe it or not, this book was actually marked important by scholars. Why is it important? It was culturally important. It's part of a knowledge base of civilization as we know it. According to sources online, this work was reproduced from the original artifact and remains as true to the original work as possible. And based off of my research, it appears that another voice of warning is based off of this book. So the book was actually, I think it was printed in the 1930s, but it wasn't the only thing that was catching the eye of, people who believed in end days. You had Sarah Monet later on, Julie Rowe, and like I said, several other people. You had the anonymous Spencer. And these new tech visionaries attached to the LDS, well, they're gaining momentum and loads of attention through the online community at Vallow. Granted, Julie Rowe's books, when they come out, they weren't as big as John Podest. However, those websites made it easy to fuel the fire enough to keep things going for these guys. One guy who researched this says that these websites make it to where pathetic seers get promoted through these sites, as well as through word of mouth. What they do is they head to this website and they share their dreams, their visions, and they find the support of the community that only feeds the infant monster. And people like Julie Rowe, well, they're telling people like Lori Vallow that everybody could be like them, sharing their visions and being open about it. People like Julie Rowe really don't understand what's wrong with that and definitely don't believe that you're speaking out against the prophets. And it's really not until later on that Julie wrote, or well, she said, she started calling that very religion she was supported and raised in a cult. LDS members from this era know about this guy named Spencer. His warnings were printed into a book written by John Podest just before Julie Rowe's books actually come out. What's the difference between Spencer and Julie? Spencer stayed anonymous. He didn't try to overstep boundaries and push away from the prophets. He didn't seek celebrity status. On the other hand, this new visionary, Julie Rowe, well, she's milking this visionary gift in every aspect. She only shares certain details as long as you pay money to go see her speak, attend one of her energy sessions, and she's gaining quite a bit of money, donations, and gaining followers. Where Spencer actually places the church in the center of this apocalypse that he's predicting, Julie Rowe sees herself as one of the leaders. She's a general, in fact. According to Julie Rowe, there's going to be a 9-month war. And she is a general, and this is a war where all believers, translated beings, must gather together as a people and bring their supplies with them. In part 56 of this series, we discussed how Chad Daybell discusses the fact that he sees almost the same exact thing as Julie Rowe and how they need to prepare, move to Rexburg, and he sees himself as a leader during this time along with his children. His children play a big part in the apocalypse. And as much as I've been following Julie Rowe, so far, not one visionary prediction has been correct. I tried very hard to see the gifts, but I cannot find any of them. And even worse, she had plenty of time before 2019 arrives. And in all of these visions, the one that would destroy some of her best friends, she never seen coming. So you got to remember what happened with this case did not develop overnight. This is something that took a long time. I'm not here to Julie bash, by the way. I'm just very frustrated. At least be true. We learned that many people who believed in Julie, they cashed in their 401ks. Many of them lost everything before the apocalypse even come. And those that didn't believe her or stood up against her, well, they went under different aliases, saying bad things about those people for trying to help warn people so that they didn't lose their 401k. Many people were worried about what other problems could actually come from something that she was teaching. And she's making calls to the LDS members above the prophets to be open. In one of her blogs, now deleted, she posts something from Elder Russell M. Nelson of the Quorum of 12 Apostles. Whether truth emerges from a scientific laboratory or through revelation, all truth emanates from God. All truth is part of the gospel of Jesus Christ, yet I was being asked to hide my faith. I did not comply with my colleagues' requests. I let my faith show. In all professional endeavors, rigorous standards of accuracy are required. Scholars cherish their freedom of expression, but full freedom cannot be expressed if part of one's knowledge is ruled out of bounds by ethics of men. Spiritual truth cannot be ignored, especially divine. So, what is she talking about here? Julie Rowe, we learned, said peace out. She had taken a break. She was overwhelmed with the fact that the church wasn't supporting her and that many LDS members were questioning her gifts. But not long after that, here she is. She's feeling more confident than ever. And she's speaking to anyone that feels the same as she does. Speak out. Share your faith. Share your knowledge. and speak as you wish. Lori Vallow must have been intrigued. Many people must have been intrigued by her stepping on the feet of the prophet. Because behind closed doors, there's a secret society building up there that are supporting one another. It also seemed that she was recruiting quite a many of LDS members for her energy work sessions. Julie Rowe has several books out now, and in 2012, she talked about her exposure to Dr. Bradley Nelson's emotional code, especially in her second book, The Time Is Now. And she used a holistic approach. She says, quote, "It was made known to me that I was to research Dr. Nelson and the emotional code and the body code. I was shown repeatedly that I was to be involved in this work in helping myself, my family, and others heal from illness and disease." She forgot to put the price there as well. "It was made clear to me that this work would not only benefit me, but also my ancestors on the other side of the veil. It was made clear to me that this form of energy healing would be used in tent cities as well as the New Jerusalem and into the millennium." End quote. And if you put yourself in her shoes, this is a very fabulous vision. She's a messenger from God. He's reaching out to her on a constant basis. He makes it known to her all the time that she's going to be head of many of these encampments. And she's going to bring a new idea, energy code healing. I'm not quite certain she understood what she was saying when she said that. She is overstepping God himself and becoming the healer. Not even through him any longer, but through these energy code sessions. How many people will continue to follow her? Well, it appears that Chad Daybell is in big support of Julie Rowe. In fact, Julie Rowe, at least for the next 3 years, will go to Chad's house, at least according to her in a later interview, at least once every month. Why? Because she's giving them energy sessions, readings, her visions, her authority. Meanwhile, Chad Daybell is dabbling a bit with this new energy idea. In fact, he's even thinking about astral projection, portals where you can use your energies to combine, meet, or even travel from place to place. He's not so much walking in a godly direction any longer. He's more going into using objects, looking for answers instead of God. One of those objects are going to be a pendulum. And to his family, he's the most utmost authority. While still kind of placing Julie Rowe on a pedestal, he's planning to leap over pretty soon. No doubt in my mind that Chad Daybell has something more than being a publisher to Julie Rowe. And the fact that Julie Rowe is staying in close contact with him and giving him private sessions makes me wonder, what's really going on with Julie here. And I hope that one day she comes forward and tells us. But we said last podcast that I suspected that Chad Daybell had a decent crush on Julie Rowe. Remember, he was saying that Tammy Daybell, his wife, is predicted to die. So let's jump to a few other people in this timeline that are attached to this case. Brandon Boudreaux. I'm not going to go too much into his background simply because the series is huge enough already. But what you need to know is Brandon Boudreaux is married to Lori Vallow's niece, Melanie Boudreaux. So remember that name. And according to Brandon Boudreaux's LinkedIn account and several other posts here and there, including Facebook, he's having one of the best times in his life. He's got a beautiful wife. He's got a family growing. He's ambitious. He just is a social butterfly. His wife, being Lori Vallow's niece, well, we learned a lot about her and how she was not with the family a lot of her life because of unfortunate circumstances. But now she's an adult and she's squeezing her way back into the Cox family. Now, I've not been able to talk to many of the Cox family members at all, but it does seem that she was actually getting closer to her grandmother, Janice Cox, and her uncle, Adam Cox. She really wasn't talking to Lori very much during this period of time. She's had a few occasional visits with her Aunt Lori. She's babysat Tylee a few times, but now she's grown into an adult with a family, and she seems to be incredibly happy as well. They run marathons. She works on and off. So I'm not going to go into her background either because it just takes too much unnecessary time. Just know that she was a decent mother and wife during this period of time. If anyone changed dramatically, it would be Melanie Boudreau. And here's a piece from Brandon Boudreau. I enjoy teaching correct principles and watching how they affect change in people. I truly love my life and enjoy finding new ways to create value. Sounds normal. Sounds like they're having the time of their lives. But also in this time period, do you guys remember Joe Ryan? We covered him a lot at the beginning of this series. He was the one that Lori Vallow was married to the second time. He's the father of Tylee Ryan, Lori's daughter and baby. She's made life very difficult for Joseph Ryan, even attacked him, and according to friends, they had actually planned to do more than attack him. Visitation is a chore. I mean, it's hard to get any time with his daughter, Tylee Ryan. But even so, in his office, he has tons of pictures of his daughter, Tylee, and he never gives up. But remember, Lori Vallow and Charles Vallow moved to Hawaii for a period of time. And it's in this timeline that they're actually packing up from Hawaii and heading back to Arizona soon. Joseph Ryan no doubt had a difficult time in his life. He actually remained single. And the man that come from a very tough family background who was wishing to build a beautiful family, he wanted to get his family back together with his sister. But things were not working out for him. His sister was on Lori's side. She even testified in court against him. All of his dreams are shattered. Everything that he's seen in his life had become impossible to grab. He had left everything he knew in Texas to try to be close to his daughter, Tylee. Every time he takes a step, Lori makes another step to make it more difficult. In October of 2015, Joseph Ryan posts a message that says, I'm moving back to Austin, Texas on Facebook. By the end of the month, around October 28th, Joe Ryan posted a picture of him and his daughter at the baseball game. It was hard to get information on how often Joe was seeing Tylee, but especially from this time on, but based on his Facebook post, well, this is one of the last postings he shares spending time with his daughter. You got to remember that Lori says later that she doesn't hear from Joe Ryan for about 2 years. So you have to wonder, is it right after this time? And as of right now, this is all I have right now to show Tylee Ryan and Joseph Ryan together. So right now we are in a part of the timeline where prepper enthusiasts develop I guess we can word it that way, subcultures, where they are preparing a new way of how they see the church and what they are going to do as members of the church in the near future. It involves sharing their revelations, their dreams, their visions, their apocalyptic warnings, and their personal messages from God Himself. And again, guys, you've got to remember that they have given themselves this authority over the church leaders. And there are people that will be in this group later on, kind of working in their own direction. So you have Melanie Gibb, David Warwick, he's talking about his visions. Jason Mao, who is actually getting a quite popular book series connected to the warrior Moroni. This is after his divorce, and he starts to come out of this dark hole that he was in and begins dating. We'll talk about more on that in 2016, which we're coming up to. Finally, we're going to start moving a little bit quicker. And guys, trust me, I struggle telling this story because there's so much that you need to know to understand how this case got as dark as it did. It didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen in a week or a month. It happened over a year, 2, 3. And there are so many more people involved to this doom and outcome than the names that are sitting behind bars right now. We're in a new world, a world of a high population, which means that you're going to have a lot of good things come from that high population, but also you're going to have large numbers supporting more of the things people kind of frown against. And that's exactly what happened here. I'm going to end it here, guys. And I know sometimes I'm kind of going, you might hear something again and again. Like I said, it's hard to tell in complete order. But I love you guys. I want to say thank you so much for your support. Hang in there. I'm trying to finish this up quickly. But my heart went into this story, and I really wanted to see why these things happen and maybe hopefully prevent them from ever happening again. Don't forget to check out our missing girls and guys that are still out there. Their cases are stalled. Share their story. Don't let people forget that they are still out there and needing to be found. Love you, and I'll see you guys soon.